so taitasi Maletele umatau amaiti munga Yesu mai olima Ya la 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 Don't do I malo
Fata no vatu tanto o tunu le fa fonga tampo mai tu tuila mamanu ai mai so Samoa antoa ile nei yaso o la so na fina tu vai sai ma America Samoa nisi o autoa Samoa ta wina le tawar sa tonga ile ngata o pui pui ngalo United States ma le langi ai fa pena foi ma si o tanto territory nei o nei pese tai da fa toa ele tap span mo mori ai o la to lo fanga mo so se toa Samoa i so se ta fa toa ile la langi
tangi ile fatu Masusu ile ele Be amanatu ile ona ufo atoa utamafana upele Taumafai iya filemu ole lalo langi Imalo uma ae maise ai ngamatanga tata itasi El foro uloto ila utonga tu uoti Aole atuana tefa atoa inalo malosi Leao malepo ilo uti tefa afita fita Ngalo itaini uma italo sangalo ainga Olo olawa amatu umaya utotonga Temoilo imata ola utatalo ile atua Ya eola Tolsa Tapuai Ia eto efo imai ai ngaro ono fofa atali Te faatu sa oe ile taulanga anafanu Taumo Samoa umama letali tonu ile atua Watali maile langi le sa olo tonga waya inei Samoa ele imo alea uafaya imo usei Lava useboe ilo umana tu watu Beete toe fo imai Musu epea ilo ufatu Tatalo ile hatua Alofangia oso ulangona Ya awane isolo le falu tepea Fe osembala ilo uola Olo uola wa amatu umaya utontonga Temoilo imata ola utatalo ile atua Ya eola Tol Samoa utetu ipea matapuai
Well, welcome back, Talofa, and welcome. I am Saleh Solaita,
And I am Isaiah Vimoto.
and we are your hosts for Tour Talk. For those joining us for the first time, Tour Talk is a professional development platform, and we stream live conversations with the intent of edifying, informing, and educating. Well, thanks for taking the time to connect with us tonight. We have a great show for you tonight, but first, let's pause for a little shout out. Isaiah, what are your shout outs?
Well, I mean, it's still the new year. It's only a few weeks into the new year. Our last show we did talk about, we talked about family tradition, holiday traditions, and New Year resolution or New Year goals. So I guess our shout out is for all of our people or anyone. Just hope that you're on track with your New Year goals, whatever they may be. I mean, if you started a week and then a week later you fell off, it's okay. Just jump back up and continue on. It's not when you fall, but it's when you get up and continue pushing forward. So, and again, the year is still too early. It's way early. You still got plenty of time to complete the goal and accomplish those goals that you set for yourself. So, and do that. So the second thing I want to give a shout out to my battle buddy, my Ranger buddy, retired General or General retired Daniel B. Allen. I mean, this man, he and I were command team both at at First Cavalry Division, Fort Hood, and also the 18th Airborne Corps in Fort Bragg. So about last month, or maybe a couple months ago, or there's a group of his classmates when he went to West Point many years ago. Uh, so I guess it's a thing in West Point where every year there's a distinguished member or a distinguished graduate of West Point. So what they did, so his classmates, they nominate him to be their distinguished graduate of West Point. So about 2 or 3 months ago, they reached out to me because they know that I served with him to write a letter of support, a letter of recommendation for him and for, and for this award. Just a couple of days ago, I received an email from his team notifying me that his nomination went through and General Allen got selected for that award for to be the 2023 Distinguished Graduate of West Point. So that award will be awarded at the West Point graduating class this year or this May, I think is a month. So again, Battle Buddy, if you're watching, congratulations, and of course we're proud of you. What about you, Sally? What's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is the football, the football brackets here. So It's it's heated up so far right now, and we've got the divisional championships, between of course the Eagles and the 49ers, and then the Chiefs and the Bengals. And I just wanted to highlight, there's some pretty cool storylines going on here with the Eagles, where you had Jalen Hurts. He had a hurt shoulder, kind of recovered, he became resilient, came back, and is still leading his team, to the championships here. And then San Francisco starts off with a third string quarterback in Brock Purdy. And and now he's being highlighted now on the big stage now with just just the cool character this kid was, and leading the team back. Not a very strong arm, but he's shown a lot of leadership character, and so far he's undefeated. I think the record he's got right now leading the 49ers to this point is 7-0, but it's been pretty good. And then of course you got Patrick Mahomes over with the Chiefs, and everybody knows his record and his leadership ability. And then just another great story here in a quarterback with the Bengals. You've got what's his name again?
Yeah, young fella. I know his name. I mean Space, but I'm a Steeler fan, so I don't know his name. So I know what you're talking about, Sally.
Joe Burrow. That's the guy.
Burrow.
But I know some of our guests they're probably yelling it out now. Hey, he's Joe Burrow, but he's got a great story. That's on my mind, Isaiah.
Awesome. Well, no, that's good. I appreciate it. I mean, I think it's gonna be a good game. I mean, the last division battles begins this weekend. So even if my team's not on there, but it's going to be some great football games going on this weekend, and may the best team wins. So all right, no, that's good, Sully. I'd like to give a shout out to our some of our guests already there. I mean, our viewers. Thanks, Sister Alla, for inviting some friends to join us tonight on Tour Talk. But anyway, but our show tonight, really, we have a very good show for you tonight. And the topic of our show tonight is leader or follower. Okay, leader or follower is what we're going to be conversating about tonight. So we're excited for our conversation tonight. So let's get started. Leadership is an extremely important part of military service. Effective leadership is important because military leaders often make crucial decisions during conflict or during difficult, stressful situations that impact lives. So it means that, the people's lives are at stake. So critical leaders are very important at this time. So whether you're a leader or a follower, you each play a crucial role in the success of your organization's mission. We have invited some good friends for tonight's conversation. So please join us in welcoming retired Command Sergeant Major Walter Takalikud, retired Command Sergeant Major Terry, and Alex Lynn.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So there we go. There's a team. How about a round of applause for our guest? All right. Most of you, for our viewers, most of you probably have seen, Terry and Tag on the show before. Somebody is, I don't know, there's a lot of echo going on. So if you have another extra device, besides if you're using a computer and you're using the phone at the same time, you can pause or mute one of those. Because we got some feedback right now. And I'm not a commo guy. Okay. All right, Sally.
All right, gentlemen, we're very honored to have you all, and thank you for taking the time to join us on Tour Talk. It's good to see you again, Walter and Terry. Alex, thanks a lot for finally joining us, and it's good to finally have you on the show. So just starting in no particular order, can you guys just please tell us, tell our viewers about you, where you're from, your family, your hobbies, what do you guys like doing? What are your dislikes? Go ahead.
Yeah, I could start off. Walter Tagalikid, I served in the Army for about 36 years as an infantryman, paratrooper. I serve from a team leader all the way to a command sergeant major at division corps and a joint level units. My hobbies are fishing, golfing, any physical activity out there with families. So, and thank you for allowing me to come back to your show.
Yeah.
Now,
Somebody
I
is
guess
really, yeah. Hold on, Terry. So for our viewers, I mean, if you guys could please mute your phone, your mic. Is it viewer side or should it be within our group? I don't know. There's a lot of echo out there. We, all right, Terry.
okay. Hey, my name is Terry Gardner, and I too served 33 years in the military, and I went all the way from a FO all the way up to division level as a command sergeant major. And for me, hobbies. Hey, I do a little of everything also. Self play golf. So I'm going to learn that. I'm going to pick that skill up here soon, so I can see it in the future. But I really enjoy, just having time with family, sharing, playing with my grandkids. They come here like every weekend. Seem like I think they want to live here, but we ain't gonna let that happen. Um, but um, but I really enjoy y'all giving me the opportunity to come back to the show because I think it's important, and I learn a lot from it as well, just as you do. So I appreciate it.
All right.
Malo whakataia tu tato host ia Major Solaita, Sergeant Major Rimoto, I miss isi tato Ona, Sergeant Major Tagaga, Sergeant Major Gardner. I miss you tato vai mai mo lo matamata mai to talks. I miss you uiso to lo matamata mai so near level lang whakatai, ma whakatai. I am Captain Alex Lynn. I have a decade of experience in the military with backgrounds in artillery, signal, and civil affairs currently. I'm currently in 25th ID. It's interesting being here on Toa Talk, and thank you for having me on here. Sergeant Tagaga, I have history with you. I served with you when you were the brigade command sergeant major with the Roxons. There were definitely some awkward encounters at Olive Gym, but glad to be part of the team.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, thank you guys. And see, everywhere you go, you always run into a troop. You're a trooper, and you should be proud there, Sergeant Major Tag. I mean, young Alex there's grown up, and hopefully what he said encounters. Hopefully it was a good one. Because I know Tag's not a mean. Yeah, Tag is not a mean person, so he always he loves you, and but he teach you what right look like, So that's the thing about Tag. Okay. All right. Well, again, so thank our guests for the introduction. Again, I've served with both of these gentlemen. Alex, I've not served with Alex in the military. So we have a very great show. And I think tonight we have with the topic that we have, I think we're looking forward to this conversation. So let's start. So what we'll do now, before we go into our, I want to start off with a kind of like an icebreaker or just an exercise. I call it are you a natural leader or a follower? All right. So keep that in mind. And so what Sal and I are going to do, we're going to take turn asking questions, right? And then we're going to give you the best the answers. You guys already picked what comes in your mind. There's no time to deliberate, do any planning or whatever. As soon as you finish answering the question, okay, all right, we'll go around the room. Just pick your answer, and then we'll talk about it later. Okay, so here we go. All right, so there are no right or wrong answer. This is just for you to, are you a natural leader or you're a natural follower? So you were asked, so here's a question here. So you were asked to be a part of a movie. What role would you want to be? The director, the main star, a supporting role, or a stunt person? All right, start from Tag, Terry, and then Alex. Go ahead.
I would say the main role.
All right, main star. Okay, got it.
Okay. I would say stunt person.
Okay, you're the stunt. Okay. Alex, what do you want to be?
I mean, we have two superstars, so I'm definitely in the director role.
Okay. All right. Director. All right. Go ahead. All right, Solly. You're on mute or
Oh, I would be the lead grips. Nobody knows what that guy does, but he sure does support the whole scene.
yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Solly. Oh, you want me to answer the question? Okay, I got it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, please, if you don't mind.
So all right. So I'll go ahead and answer what you look for them. So number 2, you and your wife go out to dinner. Who chooses where to go? Answers are she does, she always does, or I always do. Okay, same order.
I always do.
Okay,
She always do.
all right.
I always do.
Okay, all right. So here we go. So do you enjoy speaking in public? Answers are I hate it, I love it, I enjoyed it at times, I don't like it much.
I enjoyed it at times.
Okay,
I enjoy that time.
okay.
Yeah, I enjoy it at times as well.
Okay. All right. Here we go. So you and the group are misoriented in the woods. What do? 1, take charge, follow the leader, the group leader, or wait for someone to take charge.
Take charge.
Okay.
Take charge.
All right. Alex.
Take charge as well.
Okay. All right. So here, you got to think clearly on this one here. So you're employed by the LA Lakers. What would your job be? A player, a GM, cheerleader, coach?
Coach.
All right.
GM.
Okay.
It'll
Cheerleader,
be a
Alex?
GM for me as well.
Okay. Nobody wants to be a
Equipment
cheerleader.
manager. Equipment
Okay.
manager.
All right. All right. And the
I'll
last
be
question
cheerleader.
here is how did you like being a private in the Army? I hated it, enjoyed it, or best time of my career?
Best time of my career.
Okay.
Yeah, best time in my career.
Okay. Have you ever been a private, Alex?
I have not, but definitely a
Okay.
lieutenant.
Okay. Okay. So those are privates in the enlisted world. So go ahead. Or in the
Yes,
officer world.
I definitely loved every part of being a
Okay.
private in the officer world.
All right. Enjoyed it. Got it. Okay. So you've given your answers. So what happened here? So we're gonna continue with the show, right? And at the end, we'll come back after our conversation, and we're gonna come back and kind of revisit some of these questions and see if our answer's still the same. All right. Okay, Saleh, let's take it.
All right. Well, here's the first question for me. It's during your first years of leadership in the military, what was your leadership style like? Was it directive, participative, or delegated? So if we maybe we could start with you, Sergeant Major Tagalikud.
Yeah, so I definitely a directive. Given the late '80s, early '90s as a team leader, squad leader, receiving these new young soldiers out of basic training, PFC specialists, what they needed was to be molded, to have that hands-on experience, and understanding and mastering the fundamentals. So, to do that, I had to follow me approach, do it as I do. And to do that, you have to be direct. However, as I matured in my my leadership abilities, then I included a lot of the participative and delegative roles.
Mhm. Okay.
For me, I was directive as well. Coming up in the field artillery background, we was taught you have to attention to detail, and so with the attention to detail, you had to give directives in reference to how to execute certain missions. And so that was brought on to me. So that's what I did, coming up in my as a leader, young leader. And I too, after I developed and learned a lot more skill sets, I started to go into that mid management level. Then I started a little more participative and delegative leadership style. So it adjusted over time.
Alex?
Yeah, I think definitely as a young lieutenant, taking into consideration that my background, coming like majority of all the Samoans who grew up on the island is coming from a military family. But for me, it was, coming from a family that were primarily Army and were primarily enlisted. So definitely for me, it was participative. As a young lieutenant, you just don't know what left and right looks like. So you're in that mode where you're absorbing information and you're trusting those around you. And those trusts were, your senior NCOs and as well as the officers, the first lieutenants, the experienced officers over you. As over to just like Sergeant Major says, like as over time you learn like your leadership style, your approach, and how you can be more directive and massaging, that hybrid of being both delegative and directive at the same time.
No, those are all great responses. I appreciate that. But I agree with all of you guys. I mean, I think I experienced the same thing as Terry and and Tag allude to. You know, growing up as a private in the early '80s. I mean, yeah, we had post-Vietnam leaders at the time. Some were very hard and some were very mellow. So I learned by watching those guys, and of course, as a young private, you also learn, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. Especially as far as leadership wise. So when I became a young leader, kind of add to the conversation, it wasn't like one. I think you use the appropriate one based on the situation at hand, as both sergeant majors mentioned. So you start off, got to be hard at times because trying to get the word across. Because sometimes when soldiers not hearing you, or they're not moving fast enough, then you got to put some fire up there. That's a directive approach. Hey, let's go. No, get up. Let's go. But then as you develop the team, you start ease up a little bit, and you start using more little, as both somebody's allude to. So yeah, so I agree. I think we've all experienced the same thing. And again, for our viewers who are serving right now, I mean, if you've, feel free to let us know of your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on your leadership style to use when you're a very young leader in the Army. Okay, don't talk about now or 5 years ago, but when you first came in. Okay. All right. Any comments, Sally, before I move on?
No.
Okay. All right. So, as a young leader, all right. So there's all of you now. Who did you pattern your leadership style after? Tell us about that person. Because your leadership style, we already talked about. We've seen our leaders. We've seen that one guy. He was hard as woodpecker lips. I want to be just like that guy. Or that's a guy I don't want to be like, So your leadership style was patterned around who? Tell us about him or her.
Well, I can take the lead on that one. My first leader that I, took after, or I really tried to emulate was his name was he was my platoon sergeant, and his name was Antonio Thomas. And that guy was hard, man. I used to sit up there and say, man, boy, he'd ride us and ride us. But the good thing about it, I learned so much from him in reference to how to prioritize. I'm talking about he will call us in, and like at the end of the day, which a lot of leaders, don't do now, but I know they did when I was coming up. At the end of the day, he said, hey, what did you contribute to the Army today? I'm talking about he would say that to all us. And so we'll say, well, we did this. And he said, oh, so you slacked the Army. So and so I started thinking to myself, man, what I'm going to be like that, or am I going to be asking no question? And Lord hold, hey, I was asking those same questions when I became a platoon sergeant. And so, but he was a great leader. And he was Vietnam. He was a Vietnam era platoon sergeant. And he taught us the skills and the things we needed to be able to, lead. Now, I have some I elect not to talk about because I said, no, I do not want to follow in that person's footsteps. I'm not going to mention their name, but those was the type of leaders that I steered away from, and I did not want to follow. But Platoon Sergeant Thomas, he was a good NCO, and the good thing about it, I had the opportunity to meet him again when I was Brigade Sergeant Major up in Alaska. I was down here at Fort Lewis for something, and I was at the post office, and I'm walking in the post office, and I looked up, and there he was. And he said, yeah, I've been tracking you, yeah, I see you Command Sergeant Major now. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have made it there without you, because you the one that, gave me those little tools to develop and become a good leader. So to this day, I still sometimes hunt him down, but I believe he passed away, but he was a good NCO.
Yeah, that's a great story. I have a similar story. I also emulated, well, not necessarily emulated, but I respected him as, he was my platoon sergeant. His back then, his name was Sergeant First Class Terry Sato. Some of you may even know him. But, he was, he was very technically and tactically sound. He was lightning smart. And he was not the guy that was just put and tear you down and made you do push-ups all the time. He had a cool, calm demeanor. And he was he would just speak. With his communication skills, you understood clearly what he was trying to tell you in his guidance. A lot of the senior NCOs and officers, seeked his knowledge and his advice, and they incorporated that in their platoons. And he looked like a soldier. He may not be one of those guys yelling in your face, but when he took you for a PT, well, you're going to do some PT. And it was not 30 minutes or an hour. It was more like an hour and a half, 2 hour PT. So with that, because he created a great team, we didn't want to disappoint him, because we'd make everybody else look bad. It was that kind of respectful way in our leaders that you want to emulate as you get older in your career.
Yeah, very similar situation for me. I think it's always that immediate, supervisor that had the initial impact on you in your first military career. For me, it was my commander, then Captain Michael Schumacher, now Major Schumacher. You look for in the middle of chaos of JRTC in Fort Polk, you're scrambling, in your BAB stations, looking at, hasty defense against YOP 4, and you're looking to that leader, and the leader that's there, calm, cool, collective, smiling he's got, that's the guy you want to emulate, and that's the guy that I admired myself to. Until, as a second lieutenant, in Rakkasan, finding out that your command sergeant major is an islander, and then you kind of read on his profile, and then you go over to your command leadership board, and you see that interesting last name pops out with his face. V. Moto is the 18th Airborne Commander. So you're just like, you're surrounded by so much Polynesian leadership that you kind of see, okay, like, the way they present themselves, even if it's the photo or just during the brigade ceremony where the brigade commander is telling you to do push-ups, it's the attitude and demeanor that they portray to everybody. So it doesn't just impact just the enlisted, but just, from my foxhole as a young lieutenant, it definitely impacted me.
That's cool. Isaiah, I think you're on mute.
Go ahead, son.
No, what I wanted to ask, since Alex was talking about, Isaiah when he was a core CSM, who did you, Isaiah, mirror your leadership after?
Oh, so for me, I'm just like Terry and Tag. I think, well, it kind of started off, right? So my goal was a young boy is to join the Army. But when I finally joined the Army, my first duty station, I didn't really like it because of what I've seen around a lot of the leaders. I mean, I joined the Army to fight wars, and at least that's my mentality. But we spend more time in garrison, cleaning, and stuff like that. So I was ready to get out. I said, man, I'm going to do my time and get out because this is not the Army I joined up to be. We spend more time cleaning and sitting around waiting for the word, right? And what is the word? Tomorrow, PT, same time, same bat channel. Right, you guys, you Terry and Tag, you both familiar with that as well. I said, man, you wait around all that time. We know that anyway. But my very first platoon sergeant, in the Army. So I came in the Army as a cohort. Right, that means all 150 of us stay in the Army together for a basic training AIT. Then we stayed together for 3 years. So we went to Fort Ord in our first year, 2 years, and then we went to Korea for our third year. And that was we broke up the cohort then, and then I stayed in. But my very first platoon sergeant, I'll never forget his name, Kenneth Muse. This guy is a Vietnam veteran. I mean, it's just the way he talks, just the way he walks, just the way he conducts business. I've never heard this guy raise his voice. But if you guys familiar with E.F. Hutton back in those days, it's kind of like insurance back then. There's a commercial back then that says, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. And that's what we call him. He was E.F. Hutton because when he speaks, he never raised his voice, and I never heard the guy curse. But when he speaks, everybody gets in parade rest, and everybody got the undivided attention, right? And then after he's done, people are moving every which way. So I said, man, I want to be when I become a platoon sergeant one day, I want to be just like him. But even those are also the days where he started off in the morning with morning parade. That's in rank inspection, followed by your room inspection. So we will always spit shine, boots spit shine, uniform looking starch. But that guy right there, that he was a model. He was the guy to emulate. Like that's what I meant by the way he dressed. His uniform sharp, his boots were shine, his haircut's always there, but even his demeanor. So anyway, so I adopted his leadership. Cool, calm, collective. And really, it's about taking care of people. Tag and of course Terry, you guys have been around me, or I've been with you guys. I don't know if you ever heard me curse or something like that, but I've been the same guy, throughout my whole career. And that's because I picked that guy, Kenneth Muse. I wish I could find him and just thank him. I tried looking for him. But anyway, so Kenneth Muse, my very first platoon sergeant, and he's the one that I model my leadership after, and then not just initial leadership, but throughout my Army career. Yeah. Okay. I see a lot of head now. I hit a lot of north and south. That means we all agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is it me, Sally?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Oh, that was you, Sonny. You're up.
Oh, okay. So would you say you were more of a leader or a would you say you were more of a leader or a follower? Can you be both and still get the mission accomplished? And if so, can you give an example?
Yeah, I can start off with that. For me, I was definitely more of a leader, but you can accomplish the mission whether you're a leader or a follower. So let me give you an example. If you tell a soldier to clean their weapon, and that's all they do is clean their weapon, they accomplish the mission. But a leader, when he's fit, when you're finished cleaning your weapon, you're going to go help others to ensure the whole squad's weapons are clean at the end of the day, not just one person. So a leader kind of thinks for everyone and gets and drives that mission accomplishments versus a follower who just do their individual tasks and pretty much that's all they do. So for me, I was more of a leader and get the mission accomplished so we can go home for that day instead of hang around and clean more weapons till after duty hours.
Hey, Tag, when we were at Sergeant Major Academy, were you still a leader?
Well, it depends in my small group when nobody is doing anything or nobody is bringing anything to the conversation, to the topic. I would jump in there and then just ask someone, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Just to drive the room to, because in Sergeant Major's Academy, everybody becomes privates if you let them.
That is
What
so
about
true.
you, Terry?
Go ahead, Terry.
No, hey, I agree. Hey, I agree with Tag 100%. And to be honest with you, I'm talking about naturally, all of us were leaders because that's what the Army do. They develop leaders. But I believe you can be both. And to be honest with you, I think that to be a good leader, you have to be a follower as well. And so, that's that where we look at it and go, okay, if you can follow, that means sometimes you can lead. And and sometimes we get ourselves in trouble because we have leaders that feel that that's all they can do is lead, but sometimes they got to become followers. And if they become followers, they start to learn and understand other ways of leading. So you can be it could be a combination. I think for myself, I think I was more of a leader majority of my time in the military. But sometimes, believe me, I was a follower. And I agree with you, Tag. At the Sergeant Major Academy, everybody become a private, and and so, but you still have to lead to a certain extent because I remember sometimes where you go, hey guys, we need to get back into what we here to do, and and you throw it out there and start getting people more engaged, um, but you can. I'm talking about is you can be a leader and a follower. Um, I can't give too many examples, but I think the example you gave, Tag, was excellent in reference to being a leader and a follower. But I know I will follow. For example, let's take Alaska. When I was U.S. Army Alaska Sergeant Major, I had to follow the lead of um, our headquarters in Hawaii. I'm talking about, yeah, I could sit up there and tell you, no, this is how we do business in Alaska, but that is not the case. I had to follow the leadership from Hawaii to understand, hey, this is what our goal is and this is what our mission is. But, I had to go into the following. However, I was still a leader. So, I just firmly believe that good leaders are also good followers. That's just me.
Yeah, let me add on to that. And another example, even if you're at the most senior level of leadership, you still have to follow rules. You still have to follow policies. You still have to follow, in some ways, yeah, and it kind of makes you a follower in that sense. But as a leader, you execute those policies and those rules and so forth, So, and you can accomplish, like I said, on my example, you can accomplish both, depending what the mission is.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Alex. Alex is dying to tell us. Go ahead.
I I definitely agree with all the responses that were said, and yes, like the same term, in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. Still applies to my training and to all the professional development, the leadership schools that I've been through. It applies and it's applicable now. I think we all learn to be followers, and then when it comes to getting the mission accomplished, we are delegated to that role to be a leader because we want to get things done. You look at Kobe, he had Shaq, he had also had Parker. You look at MJ, he had Steve Kerr, he had Scottie Pippen. You look at LeBron James, um, he had Dwayne Wade at times. He had Kyrie Irving. There's one clear leader in that team, and there's multiple followers that helps lift up that leader to get anything done.
Those are great examples. No, thanks, Jay. You brought in. You didn't mention Magic. Magic Johnson there, Alex. How can you forget the greatest point guard ever? He's got him and Kareem and all those guys. I tell you, you're not a Laker fan, but that's okay. We'll talk about it sometime. No, but just to add to that, I concur. Just concur both. All of you guys. But Terry, you and Tag hit on it. I think if we go back to leader and the follower, you remember back in when we were just young soldiers. When they say follower, we think that dumb private, right? We think that dumb lieutenant. You can't spell lost without LT. That's kind of the mentality back in those days. Because follower, hey, get behind me, or a private come up there, the NCO or the leader, and try to say something without getting parade arrest. Hey, shut your mouth, that kind of thing, right? Get behind me. So, but I think as we mature into our role, we realize that, follow really is not just a dumb person unknowingly just follow, kind of like blind faith, so to speak, just leading the guy because nowadays our privates that come in the army, man, they come in with degrees. They come in with education and stuff, so they're not dumb soldiers anymore. They're smart, intelligent folks. They may not have the complete common sense, but a follower, as both Tag and Terry allude to, followers being able to take your commander's intent and accomplish that mission. Is the ability to be obedience to those laws and publication regulations of the Army, what's expected of you, and do those things. That's what follow is. Follow had nothing to do with being a private or something. So I agree with both of you guys, all of you guys. A follower is being able to take the commander's intent, is obedience to laws and orders and procedures of our Army and our senior leaders expect of us. And not only that, but also this little guy here is but anyway. But yeah, so I concur that it can be a follower and a leader and accomplish a mission at the same time. But if we're looking at follow as, hey, get behind me and follow, I think it's a time and place, and it's a situation dependent. And we talk about MET-TC. I think all those factors come into play. And then that's when you got to say, well, I guess I'm a follower. As we talk about Sergeant Major Academy. I mean, hey, even though we were first sergeants, some were already E9s, but we were pretty much privates in the academy, But we learned to follow. As Alex mentioned, you can't be a good leader, unless you're a good follower at first. And as with anything that we do in life, even in the spiritual realm, you got to be able to be a follower first before you become a leader. Okay, I'll leave it there. Sally, if you want to add in.
No, I totally agree with what you were saying too just now, and I think I think the good part about being in the military is that you can continuously do both. You could continuously look for good examples to follow at the same time, be the leader at the same time. I mean, I'm always trying to find those examples, whether it's even a position of leadership above me, or it's my own team member or my own NCO that that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great example, I'm going to follow that. I'll take that piece of my in my kit bag, and then and at the same time I'm doing that, there's probably other folks looking at that example to follow, that example in my leadership to follow. So I agree with all. So
No, appreciate. Thanks for your comments here. So we'll just continue on. I mean, this is a great great topic, and I also got a great guest and a lot of great comments here. So I'm not watching the Facebook, so I don't know if any comments from our viewers. So so
yeah,
here's the okay. So over time, the military has evolved from the authoritarian top-down approach to a more effective leadership style, such as transformational, servant leadership, and participative leadership. So those are the three things taught in schools. I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't know, Tag, it was there when you got before you got out. I know it wasn't that when So, but the question is, from your many years of experience, could you give an example of a transformational leadership?
Yeah, I'll kick off again. Bernard M. Bass actually came up with a transformational leadership concept. And it focuses on three things. It focuses on the future, it focuses on the change of the organizations, and it focuses on people. So it's really look forward looking, what's next. In the military, where is the next conflict going to be? But if you look in the corporate world, look at all these electric vehicles that are coming out. Tesla with the Ford and Chevy are coming out with these different vehicles. That's coming from the transformational leadership along the way to be competitive. But for us, we're really focusing how to win the battlefield in the next future fight. And then what changes do we need to make so we can provide the training, the resources that our soldiers have to have the advantage, and then really develop and find the right people to do the work, right? So we can win into the next battlefield. I think that's a key now, based on what's going on in this world. Now, here's a big transformation in the Army. 9/11. Look at all the evolution of changes we've done, how we change our doctrine, how we change our fight. And if you look at the formation of the BCT, where you never had that, everybody was a hodgepodge units came to join you when you went to NTC or you went to some other conflict. But they developed the BCT concept and everybody fought together. Here's another one, COVID. How do we change our mission, and how do we continue to operate through the COVID environment? More telework, and just different ways to come up with things. That has to be transformational leadership in the making, and I think that's going to continue on because it's kind of new in my book. I've never really, towards the end, I kind of understand how that work at the strategic level and how it's, how senior leaders lead a huge, organization to the next level. So it's a really good leadership style that we have. What do you say, Terry?
that's awesome.
Well, hey, so when I retired, that's when the Army started to change, its vision. But, the transformation leadership, it deals with, like you said, future leaders, building visions and, and providing purpose for organizations. So when you start looking at the transformational leadership, yes, it deals with change. And so as a leader, in the past, leadership, they did not focus on, they focus on organization, but they didn't focus in reference to like individual growth of a subordinate command or organization enhancement. That was not that was not the goal. But with transformational leadership, that's the direction that they're going now. And I agree. It's all about looking at the future. How can we change things to adapt? And you hit it on the head, especially with COVID-19. how we transform from, you know, going to work, going remotely now. And so we know most likely that ain't going to change. And so now, as we transform, now it's more remote, teleworking, telecourt, telehealth. And so that's the direction we're going. So you hit it on the head. So they start to look at this as okay, this is the direction we need to go. And that's how the transformational leadership is going. It's just looking at, hey, which direction we need to go, what the conflict is, and then how we're going to address that. So, Tag, you're spot on. Man, you gave some excellent examples. I wish I could think like that, but hey, but you on top of it.
That's awesome. Alex, what do you think?
No, I couldn't agree more. So I made your tag like hit it right on transformational leadership. I think two things definitely comes to mind when you're thinking about transformational leadership. One, inspire, and two is teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Transformational is about inspiring that change, and that can't happen if everyone isn't on board. When you look at this type of leadership, you see it all over, from the lowest to team leaders, to squad leaders, to the platoon sergeants, platoon leaders, to the company commanders, the first sergeants, and then all the way up to all at the highest level. I mean, there's different examples that I can give. That change. Like there was a book that I read about Battle Company in the Korengal Valley. It's called Living with Honor by Staff Sergeant who was a Medal of Honor recipient, Salvatore Giunta, about his commander, then Captain Daniel Kearney. He talked about, how as a rifle company commander, he came in and, everybody was just there for the deployment. They knew that they're going to die. Like, he had to inspire change. And then even to now, like you read about the good deeds, like even at Fort Campbell with the DIVARTY, there's a new policy that the Army's rolling out with the holistic health fitness program. They're promoting that policy to inspire that sort of change in the organization because they see the value of the program and they want to act it. So, I mean, that's, there's different examples of transformational leadership, but we have to think not only is it just the person, it's also the organization.
That's awesome. So, from Sergeant Major Tag's example of, the what's next, and then he, and the examples of, creating that vision, for the organization to transform through this change, through this ambiguous environment, going all the way through, and then, with Alex talking about, the inspiration and stuff. Do you guys see any? Do you guys, pretty much agree that there's, like within the system, there's some system changes, that we would focus on to kind of help, cater to that change, or maybe that's not the right word, but just like push for that change. And it takes, a lot of us people, right? A lot of the,
there's, change are continuing to happen right now. Look at, we're really paying attention to what's going on in Ukraine. How does that tie into Taiwan? How does that, so, it's always, you have to have the mindset of, conditions change. So your organization has to change, your mind has to change in a way you can adapt to, the outcome of, the next fight. We have to do that in order to be, in order to get ahead, and to have the advantage. We have to, I mean, not just the military, the corporations do that all the time, how they change things. People change. I mean, it's continuously doing that all the time. And as we evolve, 20, 30, 50 years from now, things are going to be different. It's not going to be like it is all the time. You don't want to be at a standstill, because if you're at a standstill, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
yes.
Well, that's always. I'm talking about you. If you just stand, things gonna pass you by. And I think we've been doing this for a long time, from the start of the Iraq War, Afghanistan. It's like a chess game. You got to continue to think ahead and think of, what's the next move? How's we going to get ahead? And that's what corporate leadership does all the time. It's all about strategizing. And so one thing that I didn't hit on in reference to the transformation leadership is also dealing with motivation and giving a purpose. Because for years, we tell people this is what you're going to do. But now with transformation leadership, you tell people the reason why you're doing something and how it's going to achieve the overall goal. So that's the thing that that I have seen from the transformational leadership from what we did in the past. Now we give people more of a purpose. This is why we're doing it, to for them to get a better understanding. So I'm talking about it's a lot of things dealing with transformation leadership, and I think it's excellent that the military have went that direction, because we need it, because we was authoritarian for so long, and it was like, hey, top down, you do it and we move on. But now it's more of, hey, I'm giving you a purpose, and and then you go into the other steps of it, of participative and delegative. So it's pretty good. So I like it.
Yeah, and if you look, another example, Terry, if you look back in 2003, the military housing, the barracks were just in rumble. We had a transformation of developing new barracks, new housings, which improved morale in our military families and in our communities. That someone said, hey, back, 10 years before the MILCON says, hey, this is what we need for our soldiers. That was a great example of a transformational leader who was thinking of the future, to benefit the soldier today.
Concur. I concur 100%. I believe transformation leaders are visionaries. They're the ones that is kind of thinking 10, 20 years from now. Some of us don't want to look that far out, but they do. So
No, and I'm thankful for those leaders, because it's one of the reasons why a lot of times, this most recently we've pivoted from the coin to the large scale combat operations, and and that's kind of helping prepare our force for what's the next, what do we think the next fight is. So it's great examples. Alex, you have anything else to contribute?
Yeah, I definitely agree. You guys hit it on, preparing for the next fight. When, as a young lieutenant, you hear, and it's the same thing. Fundamentals matters, right? And we always hear readiness. Are you ready to deploy to fight the next war? It's the same thing then, and it's the same thing now. But for me, I didn't really think about, okay, I'm just gonna go qualify on the range. I'm gonna go, get everything so that that I'm green across the board. But now you see organizations, like the Dragon's Dungeon, innovation. Like, how are we getting ourselves better? How are we being more innovative so that we are ready to prepare and equip our soldiers, our organization for the next war? And then you can see it now. You see it with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. Was Russia prepared? Was Ukraine prepared? Now you see it with the whole instance in the Indo-PACOM region that Sergeant Major Tag has talked about with Taiwan. Now we're looking at ourselves as an organization. I know our organization is looking at, like, truly evaluating ourselves. Like, do we need to change, and where do we need to change? So it's having an understanding of where we are, what are we going to do with where we are, and what we want to do, and how can we get there.
I wanted to kind of branch off another question from this transformational leadership piece. It's and mainly for maybe Tag and Terry, like, how much do you think contributes how much do you think the lower echelons, like your soldiers and stuff, contribute to that transformational leadership? You know, because we know that it's not always generated through a vision, right? But how much do you think the soldiers contribute into that? Um, I hope I made that question a little bit clear.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. One is we have to inform our soldiers the overall vision. What are we trying to get to? And every soldier's individual contribution, you know, his individual contribution um, really benefits the overall mission. You know, so if everybody did their part, even at the lowest level, he contributes to the fight for the overall accomplishment of the mission. And they have to know that, you know, if you are a basic rifleman, just do the best you can as a rifleman, because you know, that soldier is being trained and developed to the next fight. You know, you know, they may go to a different terrain to fight, you know, like we did for 9/11. We went through the tunnel training, you know, subsurface, surface, and he's getting trained to what's required for the next fight, but he just got to be the best shooter that he can be, and he's contributing to the overall mission. That was my contribution.
Yeah, you know, I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to see, I'm talking about TAC hit it. It's just one of those, yeah, you got to inform them of the vision, and then it's all about getting buy-in. I'm talking about when you get buy-in at the lowest level, you know, um, things happen, and you know, things are accomplished. So it's all about trying to get the buy-in, that they understand what the mission is, you know, what the vision, and how we going to get there. So it's I'm talking about it's there. It's just we just have to ensure that they understand it, because sometimes you have vision. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when I was in serving, I didn't understand, you know, like roles and visions until I became a first sergeant, you know, in reference to years out, how we, you know, um, prepare for certain things. I didn't understand that until I was a first sergeant, you know, senior platoon sergeant going to the first sergeant. And so by sharing that information with your subordinate and understanding, hey, this is the vision and your contribution to get there, you know, I think it's all about getting that buy-in and just trying to get everybody on board to be able to one see the vision, be able to get to the vision. So, you know,
You know, it's tough. It's very tough for a young private when they come to their first duty station. They have no idea where they're going to be 5 years, let alone 10 years from now. They're, you know, most of them come in as, hey, I'm just going to do my enlistment and then I'm going to get out, right? Of course, I was one of those guys, and 36 years later, I got out. But, you know, it's important when they get brief on newcomers brief. For instance, when, you know, your corps commander or division commander comes up and explain the mission and the vision of the organization, they don't really know. They don't really know what that really means as a young soldier. So, you know, for me, is to follow up with a commander is like, hey, you're in for 3 years. Be the best soldier you can. Be disciplined and be, you know, honor the service that you came in for. So if you're going to do 3 years, complete that. So try not to get in trouble before that time, so we don't have to deal with you, right? So just initial discipline and master your fundamentals. Just do what you are trained to do as a soldier. Really, that really contributes to the overall mission of that company or battalion or brigade and so forth. And if you're a great soldier, you have a great team. You have a great team, you have a great squad, and it goes on and on. That right there in itself contributes to the overall mission as the Army moves forward.
Awesome. We've got a Facebook user. The comment is, Transformational leaders are necessary. They're the placeholders or the ones that can bridge not just the current generation, but also advise, uh, be the advice giver for the new generation of leadership within any organization. Yeah, good comment.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
spot on. That's
Yeah,
absolutely. I totally
yeah.
agree with that.
yeah, well said. Well said. So, uh, I guess Isaiah right now is taking care of some business right now with Legend, his grandson. So, without further ado, we could transition to the next question, and the next question is on servant leadership. So, the Army explains that servant leadership is based on trust between the leader and subordinates, which develops relationships and rapport among the team. So, based on your many leaders of leading soldiers, what are your thoughts on servant leadership? And could you give an example? Can we start with you, Alex, if you don't mind?
Um, I definitely think that we all aspire to be servant leadership. We have to first understand the organizations that we are in because it may require a transformational leadership or a participative style leadership. But ultimately, the goal is to be a servant leadership, and that's where you find your organization, you know, not just only you as the leader, but the organization as well, focusing on growth and a teamwork mindset where everybody, their well-being is taken care of, and that the community that they belong to, if it's down to the squad level, platoon level, whatever level, um, they're all working for a common goal. Uh, to be a servant leadership, I mean, it's as a company grade officer, it's for me, it's easier for me to say like I'm looking down at my immediate my immediate family would be my company, but then it would be unwise of me as a company grade officer to think of a bigger picture because the battalion commander is thinking about his immediate family, and that's the six companies under his command. And then you go one step higher, you look at the brigade commander. I mean, I'm not at that level. I'm pretty sure, our fellow guest speakers can speak at that level. The amount, their focus. So, I think, Sergeant Major Tagalog just hit it on. Like, if if your initial term, like you focus on being the best soldier. As for me, as being a company grade officer, be the best company grade officer I can be, provide and support those below me. Look at higher and see and nest what I'm doing with what they're trying to do. I was going to elaborate more because we look at FM ADP 6-22. Army leaders, anyone who by virtue assumed role or assigned responsibilities, inspires and influences people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. I think the one quote that comes to my mind for some reason, it's probably because my brothers are enlisted, my uncles are enlisted, my cousins are enlisted, everybody. It's the NCO Corps, NCO Creed. That one saying in all soldiers are entitled to an outstanding leadership. I will provide that leadership. I know my soldiers, and I will always place their needs above my own. I think that's the one quote that's in my head that, when you come to leadership, that's the leader I want to be, and that's the leader that we all aspire to be.
Yeah, wow. Go ahead.
And like you look at the word sergeants, they are literally the backbone of the Army. Anywhere you go, I've had great success with all the NCOs that I've worked with. Like they if you want to make change happen, you want to make things happen, it's them. You look at sergeant is Latin for the word Servian, and it literally translates to the one who serves. So even at the founding fathers of the Army with the NCO Creed, the word sergeant, it takes into consideration serving. So at the root level of any leader is that we're here to serve others.
Well said.
Yeah. Well said. And then you stole the words out of my mouth when you recited the NCO Creed, Alex. That was really good. But for me, servant leadership is important, and I think it's necessary because it primarily focuses on people and their well-being, and of course, like you said, the long-term growth, compared to a traditional leader who's more focused on their personal and professional growth. So, this person is more for the people and not himself. So let me give you an example of a really good example of a servant leadership. And this was back in 2011 in Afghanistan. And I had a battalion. It was an austere place. It was very difficult and very, very, very dangerous at times to get there. And Thanksgiving was coming around. We didn't have a stove to cook on, so we were going to eat MREs for during Thanksgiving. But under the leadership, two great leaders that Isaiah mentioned earlier, himself and General Allen, he listened, and I said, hey, this is what we need for Thanksgiving. We don't have any. And looking at all the resources that was available in Afghanistan, and 2 days prior to Thanksgiving, guess what? He brought us MKT, and everybody had Thanksgiving. 800 people having an actual meal in Thanksgiving, which, for people to knowing that they had that available to them, it was good to see that they respected, and that guy's Isaiah Vamoto. And without him even knowing it, he thought about the people first, not about himself or what he did and all that. He provided resources because it was important for the people to get what they deserve and boost morale within the battalion. I mean, that's servant leadership, top notch right there. And I will never, for the rest of my life, I'll never forget that.
You can add, thanks, Tag, for the reminder. But I think that the bottom line was, I think Tag's they've been eating out of MKT all that time. They had this big old concrete mortar building that's been built as their DFAC. So that was already done. They wired, but they brought in, I think it was 220. No, the facility was wired 220, I think. But they brought in American, what do you call it, oven, stove. So all those were, I think they were 110.
110.
Yeah. So that was a problem. So when Tag brought to my attention, I said, okay, we'll make it happen. So they were able to, our team were able to bring in the right equipment with the right amp, and then they had a good Thanksgiving. But a great memories. But again, that's what servant leadership is all about. It's not demanding things out of your people, but it's about earning their trust. It's about listening, to them, their needs and their concerns, and not just listening. So not just listening, but do something about it. That's servant leadership. I remember when I was interviewing for my first nominative position, which is First Army Division West. The general then, there was Major General Anderson. He was air defender. So we had a conversation. I mean, like we've known each other for a long time. And then the end of our conversation, we're talking about family, we're talking about likes and dislikes. I never met this guy before in my life, but I like his vibe. At the end of the conversation, I said, sir, we've been talking about families, but are we going to start this interview? Or what is that you're looking for in your Sergeant Major? He said, Sergeant Major, I want a Sergeant Major that gets out there, finds issue, and then come back with possible solution and fix a problem. I don't want a Sergeant Major, just come back with problems and then just drop it off at the G4 or the XO, whatever the case may be. That's servant leadership out there, is identifying the needs of the organization and then get after it and see it through that it gets done. And that's what Tag said. That's a good example right there. How many times as leader, we're always good in barking orders. We're always good in, hey, let's make this happen. But the most important thing is a follow through as leaders, is follow through, make sure Did that really happen? Did they complete the standard and so on? Because what happened when a leader is not there to watch it through? The soldier's gonna say, well, he's not around. So next time they're gonna start taking shortcuts, right? Because that servant leader's not there to make sure to seeing that project or whatever the mission through, and show them that you care. Okay, Terry, I know I got to blab on, but I sure give you an opportunity. Hey, we're passionate about this stuff, you know. So we.
No, I'm with you. No. You know, both their comments was awesome, and you're right. Most of your servant leaders is your non-commissioned officer. Don't get me wrong, officers they can be servant leaders as also, but your non-commissioned officers are the ones that provide the resources for the organization to be successful. So those are things that they are definitely serving leaders. One thing I can say is this is and I'm with you, Tag. Sergeant Major Bumoto, he was definitely Afghanistan 2011. He was definitely there for us, and I'm talking about anything that I bring to his attention. He was always there to make sure that it was accomplished and that we receive what we need to receive. And I'm talking about that's from good to bad. You know, I remember a few incidents with my organization where we had to get some toxic leaders out of the AO. And they flew the Black Chinook in and got them out. And so I'm talking about, so it's those things that just leaders providing support or the resources for that organization to be successful. And that's from, removing toxic or bringing in, equipment for them to be successful. So, hey, both of y'all, hey, all three of y'all, excellent comments on servant leadership.
I would like to just add, I did read a story about a command sergeant major once, who went through a really hard time in deployment. He had to go back home so that he can take care of some personal issues, and was told the ultimatum, hey, you need to take care of your family. You just lost somebody dear to you. And his response was, I may lose one son, but I have 3,000 more sons that I need to take care of. Not to put you on the spot there, Command Sergeant Major Bumoto, but, if that doesn't tell you what servant leadership, and I would encourage all the viewers, like, hey, Google the leaders on this channel, because that's what I do. You read history, you're a part of their culture, and you learn something. Sacrifices. You look at the values, the Army values. Selfless service. We always say, hey, 7 Army values. Leadership, the acronym leadership. But like we always say, selfless service. But there you go. There's a good example there. And be a steward of the profession. Learn from leaders ahead of you. I'm still a student. I consider myself a follower, a learner, and always, a steward of this profession. And we just kept talking about, Sergeant Major Bumoto, and I wanted to bring that out because I read that, and like that, inspired, admiration, So that was like just my 2 cents. I do apologize for putting you on the spot there.
Thank you there. No worries. But again, I'm also Tag and Terry. I've witnessed these two leaders both in combat and in peacetime. I mean, these two are just great examples of what servant leadership is. It's never about them. There's no ego in their leadership style. In their foxhole is all about soldiers. That's what servant leadership is all about. I don't think I've even hear any of them curse or yell at anybody, you know. So they kind of like join my team. That's why I like them around me because, you know, I don't curse and you know because you know, and they're the one that kind of when I'm around them. Well, you know it is when you're around good people, you have no choice but get gooder or be better, right? I mean, there's an old Ranger word, gooder, right? So that's what I'm saying. That's why I enjoy being around. So, but for those viewers, I mean, yeah, we got some good guys here that I've served with. Sally, on the other hand, I've served with Sally before. He's been a good friend for a long time in Bragg, and you know, you're talking about servant leader. I mean, Sally's a captain. I was just a sergeant major. You know, in the army that we're from, you know, a captain outrank a sergeant major, regardless, right? But everything I ask something, Sally is always the first one. I got it. I'll do it. You know, and not because hey, I want to, you know, but Sally was always that kind of servant leader for our Samoan community there in Fort Bragg. And of course, when I left, he kind of maybe Sally left before I did, but I mean all of here. And then uh, Alex, I mean, I have not served with you. I never served with you in the military, but hearing you and just looking on our, you know, on your page here, you know, the things that you guys talk about. I mean, that's again another example of servant leadership here in the young captain. So hopefully, you know, that you will continue to stay that way. Um, because you know, some people once they get that little bird or little something on their chest, their demeanor change, you know. So, but just remain humble as Tim McGraw says, you know, be humble and kind. You will go a long way. All right. So any alibis before we move to the next one? Yeah, we can spend all night talking about these stuff, man. And I missed a good conversation on what was that you guys talked about?
It's
The
transformational leadership. We
transformation
kind of
leadership. Yeah,
we
well,
hovered
that's some
around
good
that
stuff.
objective for a while.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right. So let's since we already talked about servant leadership, uh, you can't really talk about servant leadership without you know you know bring to mind our Savior Jesus Christ. You know, anybody familiar with his life and his mission, that's what he's all about. What an example of a servant leader, you know. So for you guys, I mean, if you're comfortable in answering this, you know, share a story. What's your favorite story from the Savior's life as a servant leader, and how is kind of tie in or connected to our military leadership?
Yeah, I'll start off first.
Okay.
You know, Jesus Christ, he performed a lot of miracles, such as turning water into wine at the wedding in Cana. He turned 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish to feed 5,000 people. He showed compassion and healed the sick and blind. Of course, he ultimately was nailed to the and died to the cross for our sins. That's servant to his people. His disciples followed him. The people flocked to him, is because it's just the way he was. And how does that tie into leadership? If you look at the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Convo, his motto is people first. And then you have General Oderna, who tied in with his motto, the strength of our nation is our army, the strength of our armies are soldiers, and the strength of our soldiers are our families. So, you know, they might not be the same, but it's the same concept of people first. And they don't really, you know, it's not all about their leadership anymore. It's about taking care of our people, our families, so they can perform to the peak of their level. And it's really focused more on people at this time.
Yeah.
I hope I answered that
Thanks.
properly.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, that's a good example. Yeah, that's a good example, Tag. Thank you.
Example.
Alex and or Terry.
Um, yeah,
Alex, you got the Bible open? I see you got the Bible
yeah.
open there.
It's hard to follow up because I definitely agree with what maybe talked about. You know, the one thing that does come to my mind is I think it's in Matthew 14. It's the story about the storm on the water and Peter not trusting Jesus to walk on the water. You know, the account like Peter started walking on water and then he took his eyes off Jesus because he saw the storm. He got scared, you know, and what happened to him? He fell through. Jesus walked over and grabbed Peter and told Peter not to be afraid. I think that's, the servant leadership you see, you don't know, you can't just like for us, you can't just say, hey, he is the servant leadership. We just know he is a leader, and what goes behind the characteristics of being a servant leadership is the qualities that he displayed. So yes, every leader, they'll have those qualities, and they'll be second guessed because there are always going to be people that don't believe. But the moment that you ride that wave, like you're on that storm, and you take your eyes off of that goal, of that, inspiration of what that, the goal that you are both trying to achieve, whether you are the leader or you are the follower, that's when you start finding holes into, you start making judgments that might not be correct. So for us, like as leaders, being, followers of Jesus Christ, like there's going to be judgments, there's going to be questions, but we have to continue like helping, reaching, putting out our hand, to those who don't believe, help them inspire that change. So that's my 2 cents. Like, that's how I analyzed just this one incident that comes into my mind.
Thank you, Alex.
Hey, both touched on, things that I grew up on in reference to Jesus Christ. Yes, he healed the sick. He did a lot of things. He, had followers, had believers. And, and those are things that how we tie leadership in the military, with, we got followers, we have believers. And it's all about, and I think Tag hit it on the head. We're an organization where it's dealing with people. And when you start to focus on people, it's about winning the hearts of the people and them believing in you, believing in what you say, and believing what you do. And that's setting those examples, what Jesus Christ set for everyone else to follow. And so long as we start to set example for people and people start to believe and they follow, I think we'll be okay. And that's what a lot of our military leaders are doing. They setting the right example. People are following and they are believing. So, it's a lot of things that both guests hit on, and I agree with 100%. And just they do tie in. The way he believed in people and the way our army believed in its people. So I think they tie.
Saleh, you have any comments? Any add-on?
Yeah, well, just an example of Christ's leadership. He's already, just to reiterate, he has shown that through a lot of his examples that he fulfilled the prophecy that he is, the Son of God. But then, even with that position and possibly the skill of healing, like that didn't get in the way of him washing his his disciples' feet. And so, this is, for me, this was a great example of a servant leader that that it's something he felt that he needed to do to show his disciples that's how to lead, that's how to to lead the flock. And so I think from that example alone there, I feel like well, for me what comes to mind is the full embodiment of the word love, because when we don't show that we love or care our soldiers, I don't think we would really understand very well or get the fullest embodiment of how to serve them, because they are who we're here for. We're here as leaders to help them succeed at what not only just the mission, but for them to achieve their professional goals, personal goals, And so we have to be there to help remove those obstacles for them achieving those goals. And they can tell whether we mean it or not. They can tell whether we're very genuine about how we care about them. They can smell it a mile away, and as long as we show them that we love them, that we're going to serve them, and that we're going to care for them, I think we're going to be in a good position, as a servant leader.
Mm. Yeah, no, thank you. Those are all great examples. If I could add to it, I know Alex kind of touched upon what I was going to talk about. Peter walking on water, but towards the Savior. But I'll go to when the Pharisees brought this woman who was supposed to be sinning. Committed adultery, who was found committing adultery, to the Savior. And they said, Master, this woman was caught adultery, and Moses in the law said that, that she should be stoned to death. What do you say? What say you? Of course, we know the response was like, if any of you, do not have a sin, let him cast the first stone, right? Everybody's left. So I guess that right there, is just a great example of what a servant leader is. He didn't like, man, you sinner, but the Savior was worried more about the soul of a person. He was more about the person, as Tag mentioned, people first. That's what it's all about. And the Savior, Savior's life is always about people. And that's a great example right there. He could have just kind of tear into that lady, for violating the law of Moses and so on. But yet he was so concerned for that person, that lady's morale and welfare. How does that apply to our military? As leaders today. How many times as you, Tag, and Terry, when you're platoon sergeant, because he had the best platoon in the company or the battalion at the time, first sergeant keep giving you these overweight soldiers, these profiles, because they know you can turn them around, right? So you didn't care. I know that happened to me. So you didn't care whether, hey, this kid's got a profile. Hey, I'll train him. I'll mold him. We'll make a difference. You worry more about the people, their spiritual welfare, their well-being, rather than it's just an object. So I think that's kind of like how a Savior looked at people. They look at people as their sons and daughters of God. And same thing we look at, these are, granted we're their leader, but we got to look at it in another way, that we're also their fathers, away from their, and the military fathers, because you guys are their leaders. So I appreciate all your comments here. Any alibis before we continue? Okay. Okay, Sally.
All right, so participative leadership brings the entire team into some of the decision-making process. So for you guys, how important is participative leadership in achieving effective organizations? And can you give an example?
Yeah, I'll start off. I think participative leadership, it's important because it allows people to share their power and responsibilities, right? And it involves subordinates into the decision-making process. And a lot of this, and a good example is town hall meetings, where a commander can discuss, what is going on within the community, and take feedback from the community, and how we can do things better. And then you have also commanders conference, where commanders bring in all the subordinate commanders and discuss maybe what's the next mission, or revise the mission, the vision, and so forth, and collaborative communications among its organization, to really develop a better organization than it was, to take it further than it was. I think town halls are great, and commanders conference are great way to develop new ideas, and just by a leader to bring everybody together face to face and communicate in that form, kind of gives the people to take some responsibilities, to empower them, and bring up their ideas, and you can make a lot of changes based on people's innovations and great ideas. So I think that's a really crucial piece. important piece of a leadership style that a leader can do.
Oh, nice. Thanks, sir.
Hey,
Um,
just to add on to that, and I agree on Tag on that one. Also, that's where we have our training meeting as well. I'm talking about you got your leaders, subordinate leaders that attend meeting where y'all can sit together and develop solutions to problems that the command may have. And so I agree 100% in reference to participative leadership is key to the organization because it helps the organization, one, it builds its leaders or develop its leaders, and it gives them a platform to be able to share ideals and their views on different things that the organization may have, and they may be able to resolve. So it's important because, at first I used to always sit in meetings and go, well, we're the leadership, we just come up with a decision and we move on. But I also remember this as a leader as well. You have multiple people with different ideals that a lot of them may have experienced the things that you're about to go through. So you should always open the floor to people so they can give those ideals because, hey, why do you want to beat your head or, it's like a revolving door. The information is there. A lot of people already know the information. You bring it out, you develop a forum that they can speak their mind in reference to what their ideals are, and it helps the team develop. And then they go, hey, the leadership is letting me participate in this decision making process, and I think it's great. And that's how you also get buy-in from subordinates. So I think it's very important for organization to be I think it's great for a organization to be effective. So I think participation is the way organization should go.
Awesome. Go ahead, Alex.
yes, I definitely agree. I think, any organization, there's always going to be a planning cell. Naturally, since I'm in the plans and operations section in the brigade S3 office, um, you look at the FM5-0 planning and orders production. I think one of the key terms that comes out is integrated, and just um, like everyone said, like, hey, for that leader, it's getting everyone involved, get that buy-in. I was lucky and fortunate to see our staff section move through JPMRC. It's the 25th ID version of going to JRTC or NTC. You get to see the S3 and the XO bring in the staff sections and just go through the MDNP process. I didn't think about it when I was a young lieutenant going through TLPs, but there's always that bottom up refinement that we talk about. Leaders plan and they go to the NCOs and the lowest levels to get their response, so that helps you reformulate, revise the plan. There's always going to be change, and without that bottom up feedback, that's where you get a complete plan. It's always going to get fragile. That's what we have fragile. We have to be flexible enough. We're reactive, and then we're also proactive at the same time. Participated leadership, there is an art to it, and you see that in every organization. You see in Apple, Steve Jobs inspired his whole team, his whole innovation team to come up with the products that we have now. It's not one person; it's a team, even a collective team.
Oh, thank you. You guys have you guys are smart people, man. You guys are smart dudes. I'll just add to that too. I mean, really, I look at participative leadership I think it goes both ways as part of the leader and also the soldiers. I mean, they both got to participate in the whatever the event is, whether it be training or be whether it be sports or something like that. When the leaders participate in those things, it does one thing. It boosts the morale of the organization because they see soldiers see their leader. They're doing things with them. You know, but the examples you guys gave are pretty good. You guys, I think Tag, you mentioned the town halls and conferences, and Terry talking about training meetings and so forth. Remember the day? I don't know if they still do it today. The DFAC council meeting. So those are done at brigade level, and sometimes the division will do a division sergeant major wants to, but it's always done at brigade level. So I think that was the first time I seen been a meeting where you got privates, you got NCOs, you got first sergeants, you got commanders. It's because every company in the battalion, have a rep, but you also got. But I mean that you're talking about participating leadership is for these young soldiers. I mean, our soldiers not just private, right? I mean, our soldiers are leaders. So we consider them leaders as well, not just dumb privates like back in the '80s when we came in. So these guys are they're part of they're part of the solution. They're not just kind of sitting back in the barracks. Hey guys, from now on the defect's going to start doing this. They have a voice. They get the voice of concern, whether the child sucks, the child's good, the hours are not needs to be adjusted, whatever the case may be. They're there now, so their voice is heard. And really, just think about what would do to those young soldiers who represent their organization, and it empowers them, because that's what participating leadership is. It empowers leaders, empowers subordinates. It earns trust across the formation. So when there's trust, that means you're going to have a great organization. You're moving forward. Success. I mean, accomplish great many things. So I like all that. The trust and and it's about buy-in, as you guys allude to. But all those great. I mean, what about NCOPDs and LPDs? Are those great participating leadership? It brings everybody, NCOs, officers together. Sometimes the first sergeant, if it's in a company level or the battalion, they might want to bring in young corporals, or maybe some senior specialists in those little, kind of make them feel like hey, you're a young leader or something like that. Can kind of get their feet wet, what that's all about. So yeah, but I think it's important to participate in leadership. It makes your organization. It actually builds trust in any organization.
That's good. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think participative leadership too, if in a controlled environment, can help solve problems. Just as long as like those, a lot of those town halls, aren't too time consuming where you're just talking about the problems. I guess you could talk about the problems and help, but there's got to be some closure of some sort, I think, to it. If it's too, and I do think there's a time and a place for participative leadership, and then there's a time where it's not when you're in the middle of a firefight, but when there's a nice controlled environment where you could actually build the time into like an MDMP type thing where it's participative, where there's an end goal to it, instead of just spending too much time on the problem. But that's just one aspect I was just thinking about.
Okay. All right. No, that's been good. That's very good. I think we've hit all these great. I missed, but I know we can probably spend more hours and talk about these things because we got everybody here's got experience in those areas, and plus you're passionate about these things. So, and for those who are still serving, I mean, for us three here, we're retired, but we're not retarded, so we still have a lot to give, and we love to share, the wealth and experience that we have. So, Saul, if you can skip my question and go to your last question.
Okay, my last question. So, during your first job interview after the Army, the CEO asked a question whether you consider yourself a leader or a follower. How would you respond to that now?
Anyway,
I was gonna let Terry go first, but you know, he's a little shy. I can jump in.
I'm shy. You can have it.
I'll go first. Tag, you haven't had a civilian job yet, right? An interview yet, right? Since you got out.
I did go for an
Okay.
interview.
Okay.
You know, by it's a 1-star general here in Orlando.
Okay.
So I can jump on it because you know this question it's a really good question because now you're talking. This is the CEO interviewing you and if to see if you're a leader or a follower. And I look at, you know, what is the CEO looking for to hiring somebody to come in his organization? It's not to come there and just sit around. It's to make production better, whatever the organization is, to really move the organization forward, and productivity is important, right? So, and the way I look at, you know, between a leader and a follower, you know, I would say I would definitely be more of a leader because I'm willing to step up and take control of a project or a task. I welcome challenge and embrace changes which will benefit the organization in the long term. I'm a visionary, so I know what resources to provide the team, empower responsibilities to the subordinates, allowing them to lead and identify talents within the organization to enhance production. At the same time, I'll be there to share the tasks and the risk, and I'd welcome constant communications within the team, and always keep them informed. And last but not least, you know, let them take part of the credit they strongly work for. That's probably what I would say to a, you know, a high rank level CEO that's looking for someone to really take charge and take lead of that organization.
You know, Tag, I likes that. One thing I can say is this, because I had the opportunity to interview several times, and you know, and it depends. I'm talking about it depends what organization you're going into. You know, because if you're going into a business, yes, it's about productivity. But if you're going to an organization where, for example, healthcare, where I'm at, for example, you know, it depends. I'm talking about, of course, when I interviewed, it was for a leadership position, and of course, you know, I told them, "Hey, I'm a leader. You know, that's what I'm here to do. You know, you want me to come in the lead, and I will lead. You give me my left and right limit, and I will work in there and ensure that we meet all the required tasks that you present before me. Now, but sometimes it depends because, for example, I when I retired from the military, I went in. I became a award administrator, which is a management for Washington State. And so when that position got rifted, I had to go into a labor. And, you know, my job, they laid us off, but in Washington State, if you get laid off and you're permanent, they have to find you a position. It may not be the same, it might not be management, but they're going to find you a position. So I had to go into a labor position. And of course, us coming up, you know, as leaders, you know, I knew that I could not stay in that position for a long period of time because I was not comfortable being a laborer because, you know, I years and years serving as a leader, believe me, it will bleed over into the civilian side as well. And so I went, well, it's time for me to move on. So of course, the organization that I left called me back and said, "Hey, we need you to come back in a leadership position. Are you willing to do that?" And of course, I said yes. So it depends where you're going. And of course, us retirees, we're going to say leaders because that's our background. That's what we came up. And but sometimes it depends. And but I don't think anyone here, even you, Alex, is ever going to say you're a follower. If a CEO asks you which one you are, a leader or a follower.
That's a great comment. And like you said, it all depends what organization you're applying for or what they're looking at and what kind of person they're looking at. So you got to know what the duty description is before you understand that duty position before you say something that gets you out of not to have you get the job. So yes, you got to be careful.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I think, considering, the so much that the Army has invested in every one of us, the experiences, the multiple training, multiple LPDs, they invested so much to you to learn to be a leader. That's what you're there to provide. I welcome change. We're all learners and we learn to grow, and we're gonna inspire change. Any organization wants to grow, and I will grow with that organization. And I will inspire those around me to be better and to welcome those change and learn and grow as an organization, because that's how we get better organizations. So, that's what the Army taught us to be, and that's what, that's the value we can provide in your organization. Whether for me, if it's to the next organization, or if I'm out of uniform and I'm looking for an organization to join, I'm a team. We learn to be team players, and we're also, a big advocate of leading that team. So
yeah. Oh, thanks, sir, Alex. No, I appreciate all you guys' comments on that. I think, for me, kind of concur with Terry. I've been out for a little bit, and of course, I work. I work for your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, and I've had a few interviews since I got out of the military. But the bottom line is, here, especially in Washington, I'm assuming it's everywhere. These people are looking for veterans. They're looking for those who are getting transitioned out of the military. Why? Because we bring a set of skills that's hard to replicate in the civilian world. It's not hard to replicate, but it would take time that, you guys already have the skills. And those are, you're punctual. You can be at work on time because you always got to be in formation, right? 6:30 in the morning. And we're always there, 15, 20 minutes before formation. So they want that. They want people that can come to work. They want leadership. They want people that can think, they can make things happen. So even though you're saying, oh, I want to be a follower, I want to do something where I don't want to be a leader, I just want to do my job. But because you're a soldier, you're a veteran, you just get out of the military, they know you're a leader right off the back. And that's what these companies are looking for. They're looking for leaders. However, they might ask a question, if you're applying for a leadership position, they might ask you some, a little curveball or something like that, if your team's struggling or something like that, or you'd be willing to, or they might give you a scenario, what would you do? What they want to see is you being able to be a team player and work with them, stoop down their level, kind of, since you're the guy with the expertise, now, and that's what they're looking for. It's not so much as a leader, but now, hey, I'm a follower. I'm now following, trying to kind of mold these guys, trying to teach them what I know. That's what they're looking for. So it's, and I concur with both, Terry. It could be either or depending on the situation. But again, those organizations out there, they're not looking for just followers. They're looking for people that can make things happen. They're looking for people that can take their company to the next level, and you're not going to get that with followers because you can get followers anywhere, especially when they look for the military. So a true story, when I got out, of course, I wasn't planning on going to work. I'm like, Tag, I'll just retire and I want to relax. I want to just do things around the house. But then, a month later, my wife said, I got too much time in my hand and I need to go look for a job. So I interviewed for a job. Terry, the McNeil Island. All right. So McNeil Island here, if you're, Tag, that as well. There's a prison out there. It used to be a prison back in, before. It's a territorial prison back in those days. And then, of course, it became, I think it was 1890 something when it was turned over to the state of Washington. When Washington became a state, that's when the state, state then turned it over to Washington State. Said, hey, you can have it. So nowadays, I think it closed. It become a special, what is it? Special unit, special, whatever the name. But it is. So that's where special commitment center, right? So this is where all those pedophiles, sexual molester, who have done their time, but the psych folks are deemed necessary that they're not ready to return to society. So this is where they go. So I was interviewed for, the operations manager or security operations manager there. The director there said, "Oh man, hey, you're my guy. You're the right guy, right?" So anyway, I went to a couple interviews, and then the third interview was with the CEO. Asked me the same question, you know. But for me, I'm trying to be sarcastic, I'm trying to be funny. He said, "So if we hire you today, oh no," he said, "what do you think about this program? About a special units mission?" And I say, "Well, I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money." Oh, they all looked at me like, because what you got to know, right? When they brief you up front, when we ask you the question, or what we're going to be writing, all four of us, we're going to be writing exactly what you're saying. So we may not be looking at you. Doesn't mean we're not paying attention. We're listening because we got to write stuff down. So they've got their pen ready. So as soon as I say, I think it's a waste of time, taxpayers' money. Boy, they say, "Oh, stop," and look at me and go, "What do you mean?" Yeah. So I said, "Well, if these people already served their time, why they, shouldn't we just let them go out in the community? Who's to say that they're telling the truth when they say they're gonna do it again? I mean, this place there, if you have not been there, it's got 3 square meals a day. You got your own little room in there. You got your own little world. You get a job there. You getting paid, right? And nobody bothers you. So if I was one of those folks, I don't want to go back home. I might get killed by, the family of whatever the person I done harm to. I'm gonna just go here. So anyway, my purpose was, was like me telling them, I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money. So they all look at me and I say, okay. But on a more serious note, I think it's a great program. So I try to, so I try to change my answer, right? But anyway, so he said, so as a leader, what would you change, right? This is a CEO asked. I said, well, I think first, for a starter, I'd probably just relieve everybody that's there and probably hire a new team. But on a more serious note, I think I'll just kind of observe, just like a good leader would do. So anyway, I'm just telling my story of how my first interview. But it's those leaders. I mean, I would ask. I mean, I think I concur with what both of you guys said is, you're a leader, and that's what people are looking for, these organizations. But at the same time, there's follow-up question, if your team needs help, if they're struggling, what would you do? That kind of show they were now expecting to hear, well, I'm gonna roll my sleeves up and I'm gonna get down there and help them out. So that's the follower side of the leader. Sally, what about you? Any thoughts? All right, I'd like to ramble off, man. So
No, I think you guys have said it all. It's after going through so many after a lot of you all going through so many years of military, you've gone from one point to the next, elevating yourselves to the next, leadership position. And so by the time you guys are done with the military, that's a really huge muscle memory that you guys have built where it's like, okay, now what do I do with this when you guys are out? And and the only reason why you guys have stayed in for so long is probably because you guys have had some sense of fulfillment by leading people. And so now you guys are out in the real world, try to put it to rest. It's going to come back and haunt you guys, making you guys want to go back and lead some people, And so I agree. I mean, I guess once a leader, maybe always a leader. So that's all I have.
all right. Do we have any alibis? Oh yeah, let me go back now. So I'm not gonna ask all the questions. I'm just gonna ask a couple. See if you're, these are the questions from the beginning. See if your answers still remain the same. So you were asked to be a part of a movie. What role would you prefer? Director, the main star, supporting role, or a stunt person? Start with
Main
Tag.
star.
Okay. Alex.
Yeah, I'll still be directing.
Okay. Terry.
Stunt person.
All right. Yeah. So, nobody changed their answer. Okay, I got you. You and your wife go out to dinner. Who chooses where to go? She does. She always does. I always do. I always do.
I always do.
Okay.
I would choose the restaurant with her permission.
Okay. All right.
She always do.
Okay. All right. So who changed their answer? Did somebody change their answer? Alex, you changed your answer. Why'd you change your answer,
Uh,
sir?
just experience with my wife, and then just going through the participated leadership style. Honestly, when it comes to the family, I think I find myself victim to is like I sometimes neglect that work isn't always in uniform. It's also at your home. Within we have all our significant others working hard at home, taking care of kids, anything that the family needs, our extended families, and it's also important to note their contribution to your success. And we've all said it, but it's at some point like it's this just made me reflect on like their sacrifices from their end that allows us to be successful in our own way.
Yeah, well said there, Alex. You got a little. We didn't know you have a soft spot in you there, so but we appreciate that. No, but you're absolutely right there, Alex. I mean, the old saying, "If mama ain't happy, nobody's gonna be happy," right? And we also say that if daddy ain't happy, nobody really cares, right? So the show goes on whether daddy is happy or not. Okay, last question here. So, okay, you're employed by the LA Lakers. What would your job be? Player, GM, cheerleader, or coach?
Coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same for me, general manager.
Okay. So nobody changed their answer. I would say I'll be a cheerleader. Not so much cheerleader in uniform, but from the stand, cheering. You know, that's kind of we do that anyway when you go cheer the team. No, but our guests, hey, thank you guys so much. It's been a wonderful evening. It's been a wonderful conversation. I mean, we can go on. That's why I love these topics because there's so much wealth of knowledge and experiences here from 36 year old, in the military, 34, to even decades in the military, and solid still getting approaching 20. So there's over 100 something years of experiences in this screen here. Man, we appreciate you guys for willingness to come on Tool Talk and share that with each other and also share with our viewers. So thank you guys. But
Yeah,
to
appreciate it.
close us with now, so let me put my goggles on so I can see what I'm at. So we thank our viewers. Also thank our viewers for being loyal and always dialing in and join us. Thanks for the comments as well. So, but again, thank you guys, three of you, for taking time out. But really, I'd like to thank my co-host Salih. I mean, he's been a very busy guy this week, and we almost had to cancel Toa Talk, but he made it through. I'm sure once we're done with the show, he's probably going to put his uniform and drive back to the Pentagon because there's some budget that needs to be approved first thing in the morning. So, Salih, bless your heart, brother, but keep up the good work. All right. So, being a good leader is a lot more complex than just giving orders. Your influence on others can take many forms. Your words and your deeds and values you talk about, the example you set, every action you take on and off duty are all part of your influence on others. Being a good follower is characterized by active participation in the pursuit of organizational goals. In many cases, this means working independently, being accountable for your actions, and taking ownership of necessary tasks. Until next time, thank you, good night, and God bless. All right, everybody.